welcome back to the Written Word Calligraphy channel. I am super excited because today we get to talk about a very, very important question. Am I ready to start a calligraphy business? I know a lot of you guys are new to my channel and you might not know a little bit about me, but let me tell you, so I didn't plan to do calligraphy as a business before. I had always been an artist and I loved the flexibility of being able to create for myself. And so when calligraphy kind of came to me, the business part kind of rolled on by itself, kind of organically. But now that I do teach a lot of calligraphy and I obviously run a calligraphy business, people do ask me this question, and I've actually come up with a new course, the Calligraphy Business Kickstarter, which will answer a lot of these questions about readiness and also about like how to, build a really good, solid foundation for a calligraphy business to flourish. But before that, let's just tackle this really, mind reflecting, like soul searching type of question. Am I ready for this? So I've got three thoughts for you. And the first one is the general timeline or like the skill readiness you'd need in order to start a calligraphy business. So this one is definitely a little bit on the subjective side because it really depends on, how much you've learned over the time, because sometimes I could give two different people the exact same amount of time to learn calligraphy, but the way they use their calligraphy skills could be different, or people could be busy. And so even if I say like a certain amount of time, like for example 1 year of calligraphy experience, that could look very different from person to person. But what I'm looking for in general for like that skill readiness has got to do with style. With the modern calligraphy or like calligraphy in general, if you want to turn it into a business, I would love for you to have that level of expertise in it where you know that your style is really settled now, where you're not like wondering about what tools to use as much anymore. When I ask you to write your style of letter, you'd be able to write it without thinking, and that is consistent and cohesive throughout the whole piece. And that way you can clearly say and confidently say that you are able to write it without like a lot of like issues. Because what you don't want to do is that once you convert your hobby into a business, is that the quality of work isn't there, because that will really affect how you run your business and also affect other people in the industry, right? Like you've probably experienced it at some point where you've tried to hire a professional or you think they are a professional, yet the quality of their work isn't there, and then you feel like, what's wrong? Like, weren't they like tested or accredited? And because like the calligraphy world doesn't have a lot of this like accreditation of any form, the one way to kind of check that really has to do with the style form. So making sure that your skill is ready, and if not, continue to practice and hone your skills. Like, intentional practice, as I mentioned a lot in my IGTV and in stories and posts and all that kind of stuff, is really, really important in terms of honing your skills. Because if you want to get better at certain things, you need to practice them and get really critical about your work, and that way you can improve it and be confident enough to be able to be hired for that particular skill set. So that's what you'll definitely need to answer or like think about as you ponder on the question, am I ready to start your own calligraphy business? The second one is to consider the fact that when you switch from hobby to business, that there might be some changes to how you perceive your creative freedom. For example, for myself as an invitation designer, I design for clients specifically. And so there's a little bit of my creative freedom being curbed there, because at the end of the day, it is their wedding invitation. Like, they have input in it. So I'm no longer being able to design 100% for myself. I'm partially designing for the client. I'm partially designing for myself. So there's a little bit of that creative freedom being sapped a little bit. I laugh when I say that, because sometimes there are, decisions that the clients may make, or like, firmly want to do, where you're like, even no matter how much you try to influence this decision, it just doesn't work out. And so what ends up actually happening for myself is that these are the invitations I don't end up showing very much to the public, because it's not like work that I want to continue doing. And that's part of the whole piece too. Like when you have your portfolio, you want to show the type of work that you want to continue doing. You don't just show every single work that you've possibly done over the years. But so you want to consider that when you change from hobby to business, that your hobby is no longer a hobby anymore. Sometimes you can't do calligraphy anymore to relax either. Like for me, for example, when I'm doing calligraphy all day, when I relax, it's going to be completely different from calligraphy. But I don't do like envelope addressing all day. So there's definitely, weekends that I just want to write and relax. I can certainly do that, but it's now a different approach, because it's now work, right? Like you are doing it to be paid. And so there's definitely a different aspect to it. There's more stress involved. Whereas before it might not be. Like it's a lot more, like more for yourself, right? Like you're reflecting, you're relaxing, or you're creating a gift for somebody where, like I said, you have a little bit more of that creative freedom and that less anxiety around that piece. And because like running a business certainly hasn't to do with just calligraphy at all. Like a lot of people, think that, it must be nice to just be doing what you love and writing all day. But to be honest with you, running a business is not just doing calligraphy all day. In fact, for myself, I probably do calligraphy about 10% of the time. And the rest of the time has to do with marketing, administration, fulfillment, content creation, just like what I'm doing right now. So there's a lot of these other elements to it as well. So I know it may seem like I'm hampering the dream job, but I'm just giving you the reality check here, because it's true. No matter what business you do, even if it's creative or not, it will definitely be part of the story that you're not just doing all of that creative stuff. Maybe one day you can have an assistant that does everything else, so that you could only do calligraphy. But most of the time, when you're starting out as a business, you kind of do a little bit of everything. And the third one, of course, has to do with like self-reflecting on your individual, capacity. Everybody has different stages of their lives that might affect how you are and like how much capacity you have in order to start a business. I am all for everybody pursuing their dreams to start a business, but I don't think everybody should run a business, because not everybody has the time and effort for it. I would love for people to be able to really give their 150% when they start a business, like put their solid foot forward, create a really solid, firm foundation for their business and have it running smoothly, versus like doing it like 10%, giving 10% here and there. I'm not saying that you should go and quit your job and do this full-time right at the beginning. No, I mean that whatever capacity you have, I want you to be able to maximize that and like really put your best foot forward in the business, and not just like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. No, because running a business does take quite a bit of time, or like takes a bit of effort. And in fact, in my course, the Calligraphy Business Kickstarter, I detail all of those steps, like all of those chunks, and how much time it takes in order to like build it well, so that way when you launch your business, it's not going to fail, that it's going to flourish because of all that you've already thought of the full process, versus like kind of like, okay, let's just do this part here and do this stuff here. It's similar to like building a house. You generally want to finish this project of building the house fairly in a short amount of time. If this house building is dragging on for 10 years, then maybe some parts are going to break beforehand, or like the whole, like the big picture of your situation of your construction project is not going to be as great, versus if you kind of compacted the project timeline, this launch of your business like well, right? So that's why I think like you need to reflect on your individual capacity of how much time you're able to do. For example, if you're a new mom, like you just had a baby, maybe it's not a good time to start a business. It's a good time for you to start like building your skills, but maybe it's only when the kids are a little bit older, or you have help for your kids that you can say devote, 2 to 3 hours of your day to really focus on launching your business, then that would be a good decision for you. It really depends. Everybody has different capacities, and you have, you could have a full-time job, or, you could be doing other things all at the same time. It really depends. So this is some of those things I want you to think about when you were planning or thinking of creating your own business. So, are you ready to start your own business? Have you been thinking about it? If you want to learn a little bit more of how I build businesses and how I, have some suggestions, especially with my experience in the calligraphy industry, I do have a course coming up. It's a Calligraphy Business Kickstarter. If you're interested in reading more about it, or if you have questions about it, write a comment below or reach out in my DM at Written Word Calligraphy on Instagram. Or you can head on over to the website. I'll put it also in the link in the description. It's writtenwordacademy.com/CBK. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in another video.